This week on The Real Housewives of Orange County.
I'm exhausted mentally with trying to cover up for Gretchen and Slade. And quite frankly, Jen. Because she knows the truth too.
Yo, what is up, everybody? Welcome back. Today we're going to be recapping the new episode of The Real Housewives of Orange County, Season 19, Episode 7. Let's get right into this. You guys, I am laughing because I just can't believe what's been happening this season. It's just like crazy turns every freaking chance we get. Let's get right into this because we really got to talk about what happened this episode. So we are in New Orleans. Last night, Tamra Judge lost her damn mind. She was on something. Clearly, she tried to scheme this whole thing and orchestrate it and get Gretchen on her side. But baby, Gretchen did not fall for that BS. So Tamra boo-hooed and ran away like a coward and a loser. And this was one of the few times, maybe the only time, I've been proud of Gina for calling her out. But anyway, it is now a new day. We see both Jen FaceTime Ryan and Gretchen also FaceTimes Slate. Gretchen hated Slate's new mustache, but they pretty much just are calling them to just say good morning and to also sort of fill them in on what happened last night. At this point, the blogs and social media have started to post, Tamra quitting and all this stuff. Katie also FaceTimes Matt because she's yet again involved in all of this mess, being accused of all of this crazy stuff. Shannon mentioned that this reminded her of Bali when Tamra, y'all remember when she ran for her life across that hotel hall and she said that no one will ever see her again, but yeah, she was seen pretty soon after that. But they are getting ready to have a new day, so they get ready, they get on some vehicles, they divide themselves into two vehicles. Emily, Gina, and Heather are in one of them. Tamra just posted another story on Instagram saying, I'm prioritizing my mental health. And Gina surprisingly makes a good point again. If somebody's worried about their mental health, you're not really going to be on social media posting every second about it. Heather then says that Tamra is actually very selfish because she's actually been there for her in the way that she was treated last night was not okay. But then I knew it was too good to be true because they go back to their same old stuff. So Gina says, Tamra shouldn't have left because Katie did lie. And I know this because I called the journalist. So this is what happened. Apparently, remember, Tamra said that Kiki Monique had spoken to her and that Kiki Monique told her that she herself, Kiki Monique, spoke to a very quote-unquote reputable journalist to tell him about what Katie had said. So Gina then calls this journalist last night and they verify what Tamra said, that Kiki said, that Katie said. It's so confusing. So because this journalist verified it, that must mean that Kiki's telling the truth and that it means that Tamra's telling the truth just because this journalist verified it. So that's the logic. I know it's really confusing. Gina then gets a call from Shannon, by the way, who's late to their activity. And when Gina picks up the phone, Shannon's like, I'm sorry, you guys. What is Shannon's problem? She's way too old to be acting like this. Get your freaking life together because you're an emotional mess. But before we continue, I just want to point out a few things. First of all, with Gina, a reputable journalist? People nowadays use terms way too loosely. I might be young, but let me tell y'all, I know about those real journalists, okay? I know about Barbara Walters, Diane Sawyers. What reputable journalist is going to be taking calls from Gina Kirschenheiter? That's number one. And number two, okay, Gina, so you and Tamra are allowed to have communications with these people, with these bloggers, but Katie isn't. They contradict themselves. So then the group meets up, they get on a little thing, they're going to go see alligators. Of course, they're waiting on Shannon, who's late, and that's very annoying. And then when Shannon gets there, she's asking for jackets, asking for sunscreen. And then Shannon says to Gina, are you mad at me? And Gina, popped off. And I was like, another point for Gina. And she pretty much told Shannon, she put her in her place by saying, not everything is about you, and you should feel bad for being late. I was like, exactly. And plus, Gina was already feeling some type of way because she has some phobia of water and bodies of water, which we've seen on her time on the show. But of course, Shannon's the victim, the professional victim. I had a panic attack. I had a DUI. Yes, we know you had a DUI. Okay. So they continue on their little journey. Listen, I don't mind the water, but I'm not really interested in being anywhere near no alligators or crocodiles or none of that. No, thank you. So that was their activity. Then they head back and they're just chilling. Emily calls her husband and she's like berating him with questions about their son, if he's taking him to all these like appointments and things like that. She then says that she feels like she might be a bad mom by not being there with him and doing this. If by doing this she means being on the show, then Emily, don't worry, you can leave, you can go, we won't miss you. Then they get ready again and they go out to eat. They were eating some oysters. Apparently New Orleans has like a particular type of oysters, or they're made a particular way, I don't know, but they're trying them. And Heather tries one and she says, that is lovely. And then Emily mimics her and she's like, that is lovely. So Heather's like, stop being mean to me. Stop making fun of me. Sometimes you say things that I feel like if I were to say to you, you would get really mad. And Emily's like, no, I take things very well. Meanwhile, Gina was choking on an oyster as they were having that conversation. Listen, I don't really care for Heather, but I believe her. I do think that if Emily, she's very mean to people. And I think that if people were to say the things that she says to them, she would not be okay with it. We literally saw her cry about a pair of jeans for 8 episodes in a row last year. Okay? These oysters, though, they were having them like at a bar almost. But then they head over to an actual dinner table. Heather asks if anyone has talked to Tamra, and none of them really have. Gina says no. She did text me last night, but that was it. I haven't really talked to her about it. You know, she brought up these rumors that are very horrible. And Katie, to be honest, I was swinging your way last night, but I really wanted to know what happened, so I called the journalist to ask him what happened, and he confirmed that Katie and Kiki Monique went to have lunch, and that 7 minutes within that lunch, Katie told Kiki about Gretchen and Naked Wasted, and that Gretchen had suspected that she had been roofied. Again, I was thinking, how is that a source? You know, maybe Kiki did tell him that, but how would he know? Was he there? No, technically at this point, that is still hearsay in a court of law. Gretchen then says, well, that credible journalist never reached out to me. Gina says, well, no, he's not going to reach out to you because he's not going to print a story because he knows it's a lie. Gretchen says, well, if it's a lie, then why would we even talk about it? There's no proof. Katie says, yeah, that did not happen. Jen and Shannon, though, sort of put Katie on the spot. Shannon, I'm sure, meant to put her on the spot. Jen, I'm not so sure, but they both said the same thing to Katie. They say, call Kiki Monique right now. Confront her. Which Katie doesn't want to do. Is that suspicious? A little bit. So Gina asks, what was the conversation like? Gretchen, did you even have a conversation with Katie about this? Like, let's start there. So here's the thing, guys. Gretchen, Jen, Katie, and their partners had a triple date, I guess you could say. And they went out to a restaurant, and they did indeed. Naked Wasted was brought up. And things just get messier from here, because Jen says that all Gretchen said about Naked Wasted was what happened that night and how the very next day she felt very sick. But now in her confessional, Katie is adding that Gretchen also said that she went to the hospital the next day and that they found drugs in her system. Oh my gosh. But let's stick to this scene for now. In this particular dinner scene, Gretchen says, listen, ever since I came back into this group, every one of you guys have came in and said, put in my ear, Katie, 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 and makes it feel like you guys don't want me to like her. Gina then goes off and she's like, well, you said the same thing about Tamra and I listened and I was open, but when it comes to you, you don't want to hear. And it makes me wonder, maybe you did say something to her. Gretchen says, well, you guys all defend your friend Tamra. Why can't I defend my friend who hasn't done anything bad to me? Tamra has done something to everybody at this table, which is a good point. Gretchen has a good point, and I like that she is being an independent thinker. Then here goes Heather. We are scared. We don't know what will come next from Katie. But anywho, this was the last night because they are going back home. This was it for the New Orleans cast trip. So then we see them all back in the OC, and they show, those little small scenes of each of the women in their house and things like that. But Lord and behold, we see Tamra. She goes to film a fake therapy session. I thought you were so upset and needed a break. Take your break. But no, she's here again. She's fake. She's crying, telling her therapist how attacked she felt by the girls. And yet again, she uses Teddy Mellencamp's health issues as an excuse. She says that she felt very bad that night because Teddy didn't pick up the phone, and then she took a Xanax. And all I was thinking was, can we talk about how disgusting it is that at the age of 57, somebody can use their friend's cancer to gain sympathy for their behavior? That is unbelievable. Tamra then tells the therapist, not one of them called me, not one of them checked up on me. And I thought, geez, Tamra, maybe it's because you cussed all of them when you left, before you left. I can't with Tamra. Tamra, if you're going to be the villain, be the villain. Okay, I don't want to see you be the villain, but at the same time crying about your dad and Simon and Sydney doesn't talk to you. Stop it. So that was that. We then see a family scene with Emily and Shane, and the boys were there for a little bit, but then they left because Emily and Shane wanted to talk. They talk about Luke. He's the one that's been having the issues. Emily says that when she came back, he was talking with like a baby voice to her. Shane says, well, when you're not here, he's normal. Like, he's acting normal, talking normal. But when you get back, he starts acting a little different to get some attention. Emily says, no, he may be autistic. He doesn't think and function like other kids, and you don't get it. And then Shane kind of like has had it. He says, I can still help him without being negative. I can help him and be positive at the same time. I will say, and I don't want to be insensitive because that's her kid. She's his mom. I don't have kids. But the way Emily has been navigating this issue, it's almost like she's trying to push all of this onto the kid. Like, why are you so adamant that there has to be something wrong with him? Yes, there are kids who need a little bit more help, but you're just assuming the worst. And you're being negative and want Shane to also be like freaking out. I don't know. Something about this doesn't make any sense. And then she's crying on camera. It was a lot. All right. Moving along, then we see Tamra and her spokesperson / campaign manager, Heather Dubrow. So Heather asks her, what happened? Like, what happened that last night? You walked into dinner, you seemed okay, but then something flipped. Tamra says, well, when I told Gretchen about the rumor at the beginning of the day, she felt bad, she was freaking out. And then when we got into the car, now this we didn't see last episode, but we did see it this time, when they actually got back into the car, Tamra did ask Gretchen, did you tell Katie that you went to the hospital the next day after Naked Wasted? And Gretchen did say to Tamra, yes, I did. So Tamra says that's when something flipped on her, and that's why she took the Xanax. But just in the other scene, you said that you took the Xanax because Teddy didn't answer your call. You see, she lies so much she can't even keep up with her lies. Heather then pretty much reprimands her by saying, you didn't call me, you didn't reach out to me, I reached out to you. And then Tamra says, well, keep in mind where my head was at. But then here we go again with yet another lie, because when she was with the therapist, Tamra said nobody reached out to her, but clearly Heather did. Tamra then says, do you know how it feels? Your daughter not talking to you, your best friend has cancer. I was like, oh my gosh, here we go again. Tamra is unbelievable. But of course, Heather falls for this. She says, okay, I'm sorry what you're going through. And that was that. All right, moving on, we then see two scenes simultaneously. I'll go one by one and kind of make it make sense. And so, it can make sense by me explaining what happened. So we are at Katie's house. We see her, Matt, their little Brandon. I always think that her family scenes are so wholesome. Matt then made her a martini, and then Katie begins to tell Matt what happened that last night and how, Gina called the blogger, whatever. Katie then says to Matt, do you remember the night that the three of us as couples, you, me, Gretchen, Slade, Jen, and Ryan, hung out? Do you remember them talking about this naked wasted stuff? Matt says yes, and you did not make that up. So now Katie feels like Gretchen threw her under the bus. Why? Because Gretchen did tell them that she felt like she was drugged. And she was surprised that Jen is defending Gretchen by saying Gretchen never mentioned that. So the other scene that was being played simultaneously was Jen, Emily, and Gretchen at a bar. Emily does tell them what's going on in her house and all that stuff. But then Jen says, I want to talk about this Katie stuff. Gretchen and Jen are now kind of giving Katie the side eye, because when they said to Katie that last night, call Kiki Monique, Katie first said, okay, but then when they got to the vehicle, Katie said, well, no, because Kiki Monique's just gonna lie. She probably won't tell the truth. So Gretchen and Jen are feeling a little uneasy. Gretchen says, I feel like I should call Kiki Monique myself. And then this is where everything takes a crazy turn, you guys. During a confessional, Katie says to the producer, do you want me to tell you what really happened, or do I protect Gretchen? The producer says, tell us what really happened, tell us the truth. Katie says, okay. The night at New Orleans when Tamra quit and all that happened, Slade called Matt, and he said to Matt, tell Katie to say that Gretchen never said anything about the drugging stuff, or that, that Gretchen never even mentioned it. So now Katie feels like she was a pawn. She says that Gretchen has been embellishing things and that both Jen and Gretchen are working together. Whoa. Oh my gosh, I was not expecting this. And that was the end of the episode. I was like, I didn't even know what to think, but let's talk. My goodness, you guys, this episode really took a turn, and I knew this was inevitable because we know now that Katie is not cool with Gretchen and Jen, so we knew something was going to happen, but now we can understand what happened. So here's my thing. I like both of them, but they both lied. Gretchen lied by saying she never mentioned. I truly do believe that Gretchen, when they were all hanging out, did say to Katie and Jen that she probably felt like she was drugged or that she was roofied by Tamra that night. And which, by the way, if she felt that way, there's nothing wrong with feeling that way. We've all seen Naked Wasted. We saw how horrible it was. She has every reason to believe that. Why is she trying so hard to pretend like she didn't say it? I don't know. Maybe she thinks it's a little bit too dark to bring onto the show. I don't know. But do I think Gretchen said this to Katie? Yes, I do. I do believe she said that. I do believe she said that she went to the hospital. And I do believe that she said that at the hospital they found drugs in her system. Now, with that being said, though, it pains me to say this, but Katie is a liar. Katie lied about not saying this to Kiki Monique. Katie, I don't have an issue with you contacting bloggers because all of the other housewives do it, and that's why I've been on your side. But you need to stop with the lies. I do believe 100% that Katie said this to Kiki Monique. I don't even know who Kiki Monique is, but I don't think she has any reason to lie. And she's going to be on next week's episode, you guys. I do believe it. I do believe Katie was doing some sinister stuff with these bloggers, trying to actually do some of this stuff. And I hate to say this because for 7 episodes straight, I've been defending Katie. Don't get me wrong. I still do defend her on some other things, especially when it comes to Shannon, and things like that. But Katie has been talking to these bloggers and has been trying to put things out there. And I don't like the lies, Katie. And I don't know you guys, I don't know what to think. This is all too much. Too much all at once. This was one of those episodes that just leaves your jaw open. But you guys, please let me know what you guys are thinking about this, because sometimes when I see other people's comments, it makes me see other people's perspective and kind of, I don't know. I just want to really know what you guys thought about it. You guys, please don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll catch y'all next time. Y'all have a great one. Bye.